Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this viewer's choice, I'd like to discuss the Brexit propaganda film factory that Boris Johnson is reportedly starting. Very much an extension of what he's done as Mayor of London and in the more recent past as well. But first, if you'd like to receive notifications of daily news and political commentary, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, the need for slick propaganda on the part of Boris Johnson is going to be obvious. Brexit is now going to happen. There's no getting away from that. The transition period means that he can still kick the can down the road for another 11 months, but then he has to make some sort of play. He has to do something that shows what Brexit actually is. And yes, this could indeed be towards a softer Brexit. Some have said that once he's convinced people that Brexit is done after January the 31st, that he could then arrange a closer relationship with the EU following most of their rules. The Brexiteers will be happy. They've won the argument, which is all that seemed to really matter. But it would be doubtful that he'd be able to get this stuck if Labour ever formed an effective opposition, because they'd be pointing out everything that he said he would do that he hasn't done. And it certainly wouldn't fool the Tory donors and hardline Brexiteers in his own party pulling his strings, who absolutely do not want a soft Brexit. So his plan is a hard Brexit, has to be. How hard, we will have to wait and see. There's already been an expansion of suffering under the last 10 years of Conservative government. Johnson's current trajectory will expand that further still. And he needs to hide this fact from those who supported his party and who supported Brexit. And what better way to hide it than to distract people with slick propaganda films? Now, when I first heard about this, of course, as it would, put me in mind of North Korea's patriotic propaganda films. And I was wondering, are we going to see someone in a dodgy rubber dinosaur suit representing the evil Remainers and being defeated by the hero in a big blonde floppy wig? But anyway, according to the story, the films are to focus on what are termed the human triumphs of Brexit. Now, that is telling in itself. When you can't report on the mass effect of something, you try and distort views by focusing onto little microcosm, very, very small parts of it, which don't actually give the wider view, the holistic view of what's going on. But it is there deliberately to distort those views, because people do naturally extrapolate. People always fall for the false correlations between things. So with that focus, the government would essentially be saying, they're certainly saying to me, if this is the plan, that they know there'll be no good economic news to push. There'll be no revival of the NHS. There'll be no improved employment levels or rising wages or anything like that. Because if there were, that's what you'd report on. Why report on one person that got some benefit out of it when you can report on how a whole town revived itself, or a whole city, or the whole country? So what they're going to do is they're going to find a small number of people that benefit from the wider misery of the population at large. I mean, you've got to bear in mind, when we're talking about how damaging Brexit's going to be, that's not to every single individual person in the country. Even the most degenerate nations on earth, there are always those who flourish, those who become rich out of it. And his filmmakers will seek those people out. Not the ones who are making the mega bucks, because he's not going to get any sympathy by, having films about some hedge fund investor who went, oh yeah, when the pound crashed, I made hundreds of millions of pounds. No one's going to cheer that. But they'll find the individuals that have managed to actually improve their lot, and there will always be some who do that, as much as they'll be in a very small minority. I mean, even if they can't find such people easily, they will just manufacture them. All films are works of fiction, even when purporting to be based on true events and not openly being made as propaganda. And it will work on some people. Remember that when a country is failing badly, it isn't everyone who suffers badly. You can have an economy absolutely tanking. In the last 10 years, the economy absolutely tanking, unemployment rising, despite the fact they've tried to hide that by fiddling the unemployment figures by redefining what unemployed means. Apparently, it no longer means just someone who's out of work looking for a job. No. That'd be a silly definition for unemployment. But that's not everyone. If you have an increase in unemployment by 1 million, that's massive. But that's still a small minority of the working age population. And that's the thing. If there's no net improvement in people's lives, job prospects or the economy, then Brexit will have failed. If there's a net reduction in those things, then it'll have failed badly. But not everyone's lives will get much worse, just most people's or more people's. And by pushing videos of people supposedly having their lives improved, whether true or not, you shift attention only to those positives. The only people who will see otherwise are those whose own lives have been made much worse. And to be honest, if we're going to go on current experience, even some of those will ignore it in deference to the floppy-haired one's films. And do expect Boris Johnson himself to feature in some of these films. It's the sort of thing he did, as I say, as Mayor of London. That's why, although, you know, this report of this film factory is all very much, oh, according to this source and according to this person who doesn't want to be identified. It's true to form. He's done it before, and he's done it multiple times before. As Mayor of London, he produced quite a lot of these films extolling the virtues of his policies to cover up just how awful they really were. It's also something he did as Foreign Secretary, and he even dabbled a little bit as Prime Minister last year as well. So even without knowing that this is going to happen from unidentified sources, it's the sort of thing you could expect. But this new iteration will, of course, have to be a major undertaking in order to keep enough of the country distracted from the realities of Brexit in order to blind them into electing Boris Johnson and his party back into power in 5 years' time. It's apparently being headed up by Dominic Cummings, so you can imagine it is one of Boris Johnson's key priorities, given that Dominic Cummings is also going to be spending a lot of his time on his reforms of the civil service. Boris Johnson is not going to give him tasks to do that are not considered of top priority. So it is quite clear, just from this, that Boris Johnson's thinking about how Brexit's going to go. He knows it's going to go badly. He knows that without distracting people, without lying to people, people will see it for what it is, which means that it's going to be extra important to make sure we counter this, counter the propaganda, basically. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to engage with the viewer choice polls, then click on the channel name and then the community tab. And if you'd like to support the channel further as well, then please click on the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.